Hello and welcome back. Today we are continuing our Brazil run, but more importantly, this is an apology video. I'd like to apologize for having, only 400 construction by 79. So this episode, we're going to be going over 1,000 construction. We're really poised well to do it. Last episode, we had the debacle with the USA where we kind of learned, we still have a small sample size with the new systems with 1.5. We really learned that not having a large enough navy is going to cause enormous problems. We just couldn't win this war, and we tried really, really, really hard. Maybe if I played on speed 1, it would have been possible or something like this, but they just completely bricked our landings. But also what happened last episode was quite a bit of a come-up, which is we got some key technologies. Here you can see our rage before we ended the episode. We're like, we need the Navy. And we're not going to do that anymore. We focused in on some technologies last episode as well that greatly, I think, are super, super, super buffed, in particular in the context of Brazil, where we do not have coal and iron localized together, and we also have a lot of rubber. I think going for vulcanization is really strong. The machined steel tools is just an absolutely insanely strong PM, and so it is the best PM in the game now in terms of industrial goods, with the exception of arms industries. In the arms industries, there's no demand, so it's really just the best. We can bust out the spreadsheet, but there are children around. And then also we got steam donkey, dynamite, and pump jacks, and pump jacks is really going to crank things up. One, it's going to allow us to start to transition into starting to build agrarian goods. We're not going to focus on agrarian goods, but it doubles the output in exchange for some engines, but also it puts in on the rubber. So this is largely why we did it. Also, dynamite is great. Steam donkeys starting to become important. We are starting to run out of labor in places where we have mines, and so all of these together is going to be really, really good. Now, we were going to go hydraulic cranes into, these boats, but we're just going to not try and mix it up with anyone too crazily, and instead go steel frame buildings first. Because this episode, we want to absolutely just blast construction up over 1,000. Construction is basically your GDP growth rate, and we are not we can't push around GPs yet. We're not close to that. Our economy is not sufficiently large, and so this is kind of going to be the focus of this episode, is really cranking up the economy. And also, as we crank up the economy, we should get more modifiers for, if we come in here, we might even have some available employment all over the place, which will allow us to siphon off more migrants from Russia, ideally, because we're still in their customs union. To this end, getting the rural folk happy and powerful will also be nice if we can get this migration attraction, because we're getting a lot of flat modifiers from unused arable land. We don't have a lot of percentage modifiers here. You can see major power 10%, landowners 10%, which we're probably going to lose this bonus. So we want to get the rural folk happy and involved so that they can modify a ton of our flat modifiers, in SOL, unused arable land, and available employment, so that we get a huge attraction amount so that we can siphon off these pops. Once they're here, we do have a health institution max to kind of facilitate them coming on up, but we might look to, in the near future, kind of work our way into regulatory bodies, these sorts of things. And so let's get started. So in anticipation of getting steel frame buildings, the technology, which is going to be absolutely fantastic, we are going to take a look at all of these goods and try and make sure we have a really large supply of all of these goods. The tools, we don't have to worry about too much because we have a ton of tools right now, but the glass, the steel, and to some extent the explosives, the glass and steel are in the large amounts. We are kind of preloading this into our construction queue, where we're going to be overbuilding it a little bit. Normally you don't really want to overbuild. Steel, an equilibrium price where steel is a little bit expensive, is going to be nice, but we are going to be adding it to make sure that, kind of coming into this transitionary period, we can flip on steel frame buildings as quickly as possible. To that end, we're also focusing it in kind of some new places like Antioquia, where we have some state construction efficiency malice here. It's not necessarily the biggest, most ideal place, but it does have both coal and iron, and so it will feed in much more efficiently into the steel mills, and so we are going to be focused a little bit in here. This is our only kind of mappy state other than Transvaal and Versat or Friestat, but of course this place actually has labor. These places, if I'm not mistaken, should be pretty much out of labor, and so while we will be pulling migrants in this direction and making sure that we are building out this stuff a little bit more, we're not going to really be able to employ up all that well. Also, in these places, we are turning on labor-saving PMs in general. There's kind of 4 states we're focused on: Transvaal, Oranje, and then or Freistaat, and then also Minas Gerais, which, while it does not have coal for the steel loop, it does notably have lead, and so that's something. And it also has, rubber to go into the tools now, and so the map is becoming much better as we transition to steel. And then also, here in Antioquia, where we are going to have the iron and the coal together, despite the construction malice. I think it's kind of worth it to build a little bit here, at least right now, but later on it might become less worth it because of the construction malice. But as we build construction sectors, it'll get rid of the construction malice, and so, as we come into here, we have a lot of construction centers. They're giving 6.8% state construction efficiency. As we move on to this one, instead they will give a 12% state construction efficiency. And so this could help out quite a bit, but we are prepping this. We are not just like going to try and raw dog switch it all. And even then, once we get there, we'll probably only swap on, the places where we have a lot of steel, at least initially, let the market adjust, build up some more stuff, and then kind of finish the swap to steel frame. Also, we've built up a little bit to 400. We had, before this, we had around 350, 380, something like this in terms of the construction, so we're moving right along. Hey, rubber boom. So even though our Intelligentsia IG kind of sucks relative to a normal Intelligentsia, we have minus radicals from standard of living decreases and plus prestige. Even though this is the case, and we would prefer the bonuses from, our religious folk, what we like even more is migration. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be going on a total separation. And this is really important to note in terms of, I think, the metagame post 1.5. Public health insurance is just way, way, way better. Often this will require the church to do. Do not go total separation before you go public health insurance, otherwise you want to tear your hair out. So with that said, we are going to go total separation. Unfortunately, we had for the longest time a movement for, what is it, a movement for universal universal suffrage, and the movement went away. We kind of want to get in on this, and so it's a little bit disappointing that the movement went away. We're kind of hoping that our movement for state atheism goes away. Maybe once we get total separation, maybe they'll be like, close enough, because we don't want state atheism either, but we will go total separation, mainly doing it for the migration, because pops have to be not discriminated against in order to come into your country, and while we have freedom of conscience, which allows all the Orthodox pops into our country, they don't have to be Catholic, just like ours. If we were state religion, they would have to. With total separation, we will be able to get people of any religion, and notably, we are probably going to be able to go multiculturalism, which is the other half of this, a little bit faster off the back of dear Isabel, who will give us 5% chance to pass multiculturalism, so we can kind of try and hope to get it in, and we definitely want to get it in before she dies. So she's 33, so tick tick, the clock is ticking. So we're in a little bit of a transitionary period because we don't actually want to add a ton of construction sectors, but we want to do something useful because we'd be running a really positive balance if we were on max taxes, which in general we kind of want to be moving towards, but as we get less peasants, we want to move away from it. And we have a small enough amount of peasants that maybe like the right notch for us would be high taxes rather than very high taxes. However, right now we're running low taxes. The point being is that we will get into the righteous government bracket for like the duration of the rest of this technology research, and then once we research the technology, then this combined with the fact that we're also adding a ton of navy, but we're adding steel mills, glassworks, and these types of things in order to facilitate this swap. Hopefully the swap will be relatively painless, and we'll get up to I think around 800 construction. The construction output overall will be 410 there, and here it'll be 820, so it will be just doubled, and so we are going to need some buffer in order to double it, and this is why we're not expanding construction, and so we're just going to have this kind of period where we're not going to be growing maybe as much as we could. We also are looking to do some low infamy stuff. We did get refunded some of the infamy going after New York because we didn't actually take New York, and our infamy is starting to trend low, and would like to actually vassalize Persia here. We cannot annex any of these countries unless we are on the same side of a play as Russia, because Russia will side with the subject almost 100% of the time unless we can get on the same side of play as them, in which case they cannot join against us, and so this is going to be useful. Nejd keeps rebelling. This is also not very useful, but so we are subjugating kind of all of Borneo, and then we're going to come for Persia, largely because Persia has a lot of what we don't have, which is resources, but also they have unused arable land, which is going to help us siphon off Russian migrants, at least in the short term, while we're still playing around in their market. So we actually have a little bit of an interesting decision here. I don't think we're going to take the kind of aggressive choice, but we have this Nejdi liberal revolt. If we capitulate here, we will lose Nejd as a subject, which obviously is not preferable. However, we are on the same side as a play as Russia, and so right now what we could do is we could capitulate to this liberal revolt and then get to annex one of these guys without Russia, like, shoving their finger down into our pie. And so this is an option, and we would have to kind of weigh the decision of effectively losing, what is it, maybe 2 to 5 infamy worth of expansion and time we invested in Nejd, which has oil for the late game, in exchange for being able to annex one of these guys without interference. Or, we could just wait, hold tight, and the one we'd probably want to go for is actually Ecuador, because they do have this nice state that has both iron and coal in it. I think, although Argentina would maybe make sense too, they have a lot of resources as well, and also can siphon off quite a bit of migrants once we get their territory. Right now, I think they're on national supremacy, so they can't actually siphon off, migrants from Russia, which is preferable. These guys are on cultural exclusion. Let's have them go national supremacy. Okay, thanks. And so this will, maybe annexing guys who don't have national supremacy would be reasonable, and save us some amount of infamy in the long run, but I don't think it's worth giving up Nejd. But I just wanted to highlight that, you're allowed to just capitulate in situations where you wouldn't normally in order to get a nice diplomatic situation. So we are tentatively trying to annex Ecuador under the idea that, because Russia is involved in a diplomatic play that is, relatively large here, that maybe we can get away with it without them siding against us, and this appears to be the case. Russia's also involved in a war, kind of to prevent this from happening, and so I think that, we're trying to sneak in every time Russia has a huge war that they're mobilizing for, we're trying to sneak these in, but they will join literally, if they have nothing going on, they will join very near 100% of the time, and so it's going to be important that we kind of pick our spots with dear Mother Russia so that we can kind of get what we want. We don't want to actually accrue too much infamy either, so which makes Ecuador a nice annex, because we are kind of trying to expand out the navy, and then once the navy's expanded out, we kind of have our sights set on Persia. We did mention this earlier, but annexing Argentina would have been more infamy, and we wouldn't have made use of all the resources in as immediate a fashion. We're going to annex all these guys, and so Ecuador, they're on the chopping block here. And there it is, the moment we've been waiting for, steel frame buildings here. And Central Archives, that's actually kind of nice. We're not going to swap right now because we don't need the bureaucracy, but it's going to be nice to have. It's also going to give kind of more taxes per level. We'll come back to the tech in just a moment here, but what we're going to do is we have several places where we had built up the steel in particular, and in these places, we are going to be swapping up, the steel frame buildings. This is going to be very expensive. We also built up a little bit of steel here. I don't think, actually, we do have a fairly high construction sector there. We're going to unpause, see what the price looks like, and we see we're running a shortage of glass. So what we will do is every bit of glass that's in the queue, we'll kick it to the top. Just kidding, everything's at the top of the queue now, because our queue has shrunk, but also we will put in glass. We had glass auto expanding every single place that we had lead, but now they'll actually employ up, so we're expecting the glass to come on down, and we might even have to, at least on a short-term basis, make a little bit of a swap to not using, just prioritizing glass production, this sort of thing. But this glass thing will employ up, and then once it employs up, once it finishes employing up, then we'll start swapping more construction sectors. We are running a little bit of a deficit here. We're going to start looking to increase taxes to handle it, but, you know, for now, we're making do with our righteous government. Speaking of tech, though, we're going to have a little bit of a look-see, and I think that, you know, we really kind of hit what we wanted to hit in regards to the production tech over the short term. You know, we got vulcanization for the tools, and we got pump jacks, you know, for the rubber, mainly, but this is also an inflection point where you start getting to add in agrarian stuff. We don't have a big enough economy. We're not a huge economy. If you're a GP, shift work tends to be a lot better, but it's not very good, going to be very good for us right now because we don't really have too many things above level 51, or sorry, 31 or above, so we're going to ignore that for now. I think we're going to go in on the Navy a little bit, but we're going to take a brief look at society tech and what's going on here. And I think that, you know, maybe it actually makes sense for us to go for investment banks here. You know, we would like another company. In particular, we would like another company because we want to slot in the railway company that we have available to us, the Antofagasta company, which, you know, is probably, you know what, it's probably even better than, I'm not sure if it's better than the iron for us right now, but it is really good. And so maybe we'll have a little bit to think of what, if we want to slot that in. But if we're just getting a new company, then we won't have to worry about this. Another one that's kind of keen on doing is human rights, because if we get human rights, then we can go multiculturalism right away. Normally you have to go feminism before you can go multiculturalism, but since we have a leader who supports it, we have a 5% chance of ticking it, and so this is going to be probably reasonable. We could go civilizing mission so we can build the Panama Canal. We have been floating a bunch of extra authority in this type of thing, but I think that the Navy is a little bit pressing, and so I think maybe we go human rights. This unlocks, you know, workers' protections, and it gives us a good basis of laws we want to pass. We don't really have a law pass that we are in love with after we get rights of assembly and, you know, guaranteed libs. Actually, that is 2 laws, isn't it? So maybe this is, human rights is not as pressing as we first thought. The truth hurts. So we could just go for mutual funds. And also, if we go mutual funds, then the pairing of mutual funds and pump jacks is actually quite nice, because we would prefer stuff to be industrialist owned because our economy is not absolutely massive, and before 600 million GDP, you prefer the industrialists. And so I actually like this because I think mutual funds into investment banks will be really nice, that we could reevaluate. We're still wanting to kind of move in the direction of going for, you know, this tech, but if we keep NAT spreading, if we keep getting nice NAT spreads, like we're NAT spreading hydraulic cranes, generally you kind of want both of these together, then, you know, maybe we don't need to do it actively, but we really do want to crank up the Navy. We've been cranking it up quite a bit, but we will continue, you know, the construction ramping up. It's up to 550 filled, and now you can see, now we need to expand up some of the taxes, and so we will start losing out on the benefit we are getting from being in the legitimate bracket, which means we'll just expand up all the way, and now we have like plenty of buffer. This will depress the economy a little bit. You noticed it was high and then it got low because it was very sad. No, it means we're kind of extracting more money from the economy, which slows down the economy a little bit, but we're just going to re-inject in the form of added construction, and so it'll be okay. So perhaps what happened to us in the second episode was a little bit of a bug, because we have noticed something that does very much so appear to be a bug. Hopefully we have a save that's a little bit not too far back, because it looks like we absolutely can't go to war with Ecuador here, because for whatever reason, when the war with Ecuador starts, we go to 0% market access everywhere. And this is obviously completely untenable and completely unreasonable, and there's no reason we should go from zero, just go to absolute 0% market access. I have no idea why this is the case, other than if they were somehow staying in the Russian market, but they're not. And so I don't know what's going on. If maybe the Russian market was coming in through Ecuador and we just have to wait a tick or something like this. But there's 0 market access. If we wait till Monday and this doesn't fix, we'll probably be trying to find a different load. But yeah, it didn't fix. I'm not sure exactly what this is, what's going on here. I mean, we would wrap up this war relatively quickly, but running 0% market access for any period of time is just completely obscene. Like, everything gets absolutely wrecked and destroyed, and so we're not going to be doing that. So checking to see if this is just, if we do Ecuador specifically that is causing this problem, or if, you know, Argentina will also cause us to insta lose access. And it seems like Argentina doesn't cause a problem. Wow, that's very interesting. I wonder if it's because the shipping lanes are going through. So I believe our shipping lanes that are connecting to Russia are going through here. So I believe this is the connection point, right? If I'm not mistaken, this is like kind of what's going on, but I could be mistaken, so the truth hurts. But if they're connecting to our market through here, maybe annexing anything, in particular Ecuador, is what's causing the problem. I don't really know. But I guess we're going to annex Argentina instead, you know, kind of in this period where Russia is involved in this, so they're not going to finger our pie. But this is just such a strange bug, because... And maybe this is what happened in the first episode. Really, or sorry, not first episode, second episode. Really confused. I mean, it's obviously a bug because we went from 0 to 100% to 0. Yeah, so we'll try and stick in it, and so I guess it's not the convoy rating that was causing an absolutely obscene problem in episode 2, if this is in fact the problem. But this is just like a type of bug where if you don't understand what's going on, which we didn't, it just like makes the game seem like completely unplayable, just going to 0, which just absolutely, completely 100% wipes, destroys like any sort of like any economic activity you're going through or trying to have. You just go through a time instead. I think we're about ready to make the final swap over to steel frame construction, which should bring us up to 800s in terms of the construction. We are running a huge deficit. That is a really big deficit, actually. I think that'll normalize a little bit in just a second. The problem is a little bit on the shortages, but the shortages should go away as the buildings. We have some buildings that are not completely employed up, and if this is not the case, I think we'll swap over some of these. Yeah, so these aren't completely employed up, and so they should employ up a lot more aggressively. We can also export porcelain to help facilitate this, so let's kind of come into the trade routes, and if we export porcelain, this will also drive up the price of the secondary good, which will make the glass places employ up a little bit more. I think that we can handle this. Maybe not. 820 construction, though. We can definitely handle this for a while. I think we can build into this. We notably are a little bit wary of, you know, losing market access and how this can absolutely cause us to collapse, but we can leave the customs union when we want, and so maybe we don't have to be too worried about this, and maybe we could just, you know, look to crank it up to maybe 80% deficit, and in doing this, you know, we're going to get a ton of construction. This is GDP growth rate. A lot of it's going to get reinvested in various loops of construction. We have auto construction now on every single rubber place. We have a lot of places auto constructing on tools and stuff like this. Not here, though. And this will, like, we are exporting tools. The tools are disgustingly efficient. And so we are trying to focus on this. But the steel is just so expensive, huh? Is this the problem? Well, we're going to try and continue 820 construction. We're still going to try and get to 1,000 before the end of the episode, but this minus 276 is a little bit concerning. We're also going to try and get exploiting the Amazon, getting the develop the Amazonian state. We notice here as a requirement, the building has to have an urban center greater than or equal to level 2, and also the rubber plantations have to be equal to level 10. So every place that we have an urban center of at least 2, we're going to take a look and see if they have rubber plantations, and we are going to put in specifically on these to help facilitate this. This is going to end up giving us a lot more migration. Here we don't have the urban center quite up to level, and they also have to have the Amazonian rainforest things. So La Paz, for example, will pass on, but we see here Amazon rainforest. We do have an urban center of level 2, and so we will crank up specifically on the rubber. And I think this is a pretty good supply. You know, overall we're putting around 15 rubber in, but we will continue to do this in order to try and get rid of some of these malices on the Amazon rainforest. Actually, Para, we really would like to crank down the malice, so Para, we will also do it, and this will create a lot of really profitable. We see the rubber's even dirt cheap, man. So I guess maybe we do for now. Maybe for now. We'll probably have to roll this back at some point in time, but elastics, we're going to make this swap here just because rubber is so cheap. You know, we are really leaning into it, and so hopefully this raises the price of rubber. It's going to make it more profitable, and we will be able to, you know, sustain the absolute ton of rubber we are cranking into the economy right now. In addition to, we move some glassworks to the front of the queue to try and, you know, address this principally here. So we have a vote come in, and looks like the trade unionists and the rural folk together are doing pretty healthily, which is of course what we want. It's still not super big, so we're going to have to stick with this alliance for now. We're hoping to at some point get a nice movement for universal suffrage and then just go in that direction, at which point these groups can become a lot more powerful. But the rural folk aren't very pleased with us anyways. We do want to make them happy. We did pass homesteading, and so they are going to generate a little bit more clout than kind of like a normal situation. And I guess we maybe want to build a little bit more grain to try and get them going a little bit more, because we would really love a powerful and happy version of them. Unfortunately, they still have the pro-slavery ideology. So at the very start of the game, we did something. We probably should have banned slavery just straight away in order to avoid them getting this, because this is a pretty strong reason why they're unhappy. If we take a look here, we can see they strongly oppose slavery ban, so we're getting -2, and this will be kind of a permanent situation. And so it's also on the Landowners. I believe there's an event that we'll eventually get if we've had slavery banned for long enough that makes these goes away, but right now it's a bit uncomfortable, especially because we want these guys happy. It's just like, I really wish we had the migration attraction on the Intelligentsia. We had a normal Intelligentsia. But at the very least, these guys are coming up. We're going to try and keep the trade unionists happy for their bonuses, though. So we're going to take a little bit of a look at some trades we can maybe make, because we're the best businessman in the history of business. And we, came across one that looks pretty good. We are giving up a Brazilian South Cameroon, which doesn't even give us an ingress into anywhere, in exchange for Alaska, which is going to be really nice. Alaska will notably delete their native interest in the Pacific coast, which is not very important right now, but Alaska has gold in it. It has quite a bit of gold in it, so we're more than happy to make that trade. It seems that the AI generally, regarding trade, look at this, 10 gold mines unused. Regarding the trades, we'll only be willing to trade unincorporated territory as a general heuristic, but we will try and get something like, if we can get, for example, Russian Congo, this would also be really good, and we're kind of willing to give up most anything for it. And so I think what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and make sure that we're colonizing in some more places. That way we could maybe have more things that we can trade away, as a general thing, and we will be on the lookout for even more trading. Of course, it doesn't get much better than, 12 free gold. So we get our first batch of exploiting the Amazon. We can click develop the Amazonian state, and I believe it applies to the Amazonas right now. And currently, if we take a look at their, state bonus, it gives -30% state construction efficiency, -30% infrastructure, and hardwood output. If we develop the Amazonian state, well, first of all, we'll get some things, state construction efficiency, etc., this types of stuff for 2 years. But also, if we take a look, we will get 100% migration attraction, big and nice, siphoning off pops from the Russian group, and we will lose the Amazon rainforest trait and get the developed Amazon rainforest trait. And this is such a cool mechanic. This is one of my favorite things that's been added. Instead of getting -30%, we're getting -20 on both state construction efficiency and infrastructure, and we also are just getting 10% migration attraction. So if we take a look at population, we now have 110% extra here, and so would not be surprised to see this number jump. I think we haven't let it there we go, we let it kind of sit in from a Monday. It kicked up, the migration kicked up, and getting pops over to this area is going to be a lot easier. This is one of the reasons why we're kind of pushing this, why we're over-developing the rubber. We started exporting the rubber to the UK, which is, we'll see exactly how that goes. You can see overall our trade strategy is not too terribly complex. We're exporting porcelain to try and, make it so that we can get more glass, and we're exporting tools because they're wildly, disgustingly efficient, and we have a really strong advantage of them, and now we are exporting rubber. We want to overbuild the rubber, in particular to hit these bonuses, but also because, it's just generally, the PM's fairly good. Unfortunately, the ownership of the rubber is not exactly what we would want. Even we can't switch to publicly traded, even with the publicly traded thing, because what we need is commercialized agriculture, but it's still not owned by the homesteaders. This is the only one that's like that. It's a little bit strange. I had forgotten that it works like this, but yeah, inability to swap ownership is kind of a bit annoying. And we were thinking we were big brain going mutual fund so we could switch the rubber over, but we can't switch the rubber over, so the rubber was a lie. But we'll still go for investment banks and the big, really strong railroad plus sulfur company, which is going to be really nice. It's going to round out the minerals and also have the sulfur, so we will have 3 out of 4 of the minerals, not having the one for coal, and then we will also have this wood and rubber together as well. And so overall, economy-wise, wise, really liking kind of the look of things and the balance we have with the companies. In regards to the gold, we have a ton of gold mines. Just to kind of make a point of emphasis, we have 63, we got +2 on the way, we got another 10 that we can build over here. I think we have some that we can build in Cali. No, we have some in Cali, but they're having infrastructure issues, so maybe we'll add this. But, you know, coming along quite well. So we decided to go after Persia, and it's going relatively well, unfortunately, or, well, it's going to cost us a ton of infamy, so this is going to kind of be the main military thing that we do for the next several years. Other than, you know, looking for spots specifically to annex these guys, we don't have our own customs union, so going over 25 is less prohibitive than before, but as you can see, we have gotten to 1,000 construction, so we have blasted our way up here. As far as this -300 balance, or this sort of thing, that's not real, it can't hurt us. That's not our problem. That's not our problem. That's future Generalist problem. For us, that's not real. The only thing that's real is the 1,000 construction, and with that, I think we're going to conclude the episode. We mainly just cranked up, and so it was pretty nice. I hope you enjoyed. We also saw a little bit of a buggy bug. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing, and we're going to develop some Amazonian states before we go. Ba-boop, and smell you later. See you guys.